Do I miss rugby as a whole during lockdown? Yeah, absolutely. We all miss it. If you're a fan of rugby league, I think just coming together as a community up at Headingley, seeing people walk through the Headingley landscape, a little bit like the Florentine piazzas when people used to all congregate into one venue, this sporting venue that's iconic across the Leeds landscape. I really miss that, and I love it. That's why we all come together. We've got this narrative on the field of this game, this sport that's confined within the rules, but the stories that are told through the players, the fans, is what we all go there to be a part of. So I miss that, but God willing, we'll be back at it soon. This lockdown seems to be gradually sort of lifting, and football as the primary British sport is leading the way. So it's not something you can jump straight back into, but we're hoping sort of mid-June we might be able to start getting together. In the meantime, the boys have been given training equipment, weights, watt bikes, treadmills where possible to keep themselves fit and healthy. And they're obviously out running within lockdown rules and keeping themselves active as well. I was ready to move on. The coaching side of it, I actually coached from being about 18. I coached at Stanley. I did Leeds City College. I did a scholarship at Leeds and District. When Stevie Ward and Brad Singleton signed for Leeds as 16-year-olds, I coached them as well. So I did coaching for years. And without going too deep into it, the most important thing about coaching is community and giving back. So you're spending time with people, you're seeing and helping them fulfill their potential. You're trying to invite them into an environment that helps them flourish as well, without prodding them too much and giving them too many instructions. Children and kids, and young people in particular, will coach themselves if you've got the right environment for them to be coached in. They're like flowers, mate. You plant them and they'll grow as long as they've got all the ingredients. And I loved it, and I loved it. And so going back into coaching now as an assistant was like jumping back into that. As I said, started playing about 7-8 Inch Street. I started playing for Stanley, which I'm still involved in at 9. A lovely, awesome community club. And then I signed for Leeds when I was 15. I tell you what, right? This is honest truth, and I'm not fluffing you. At 35 years old, I'd probably played 350 Super League games or professional games. And I was still trying to make it, if that makes sense. There was never a point where I thought, that's me now. I've made it I was always trying to be a little bit better. Even looking back now, I never, ever had a sense of satisfaction that I'd made it. But I do feel a great sense of gratitude to experiences that I had on that journey. And now it's time for me to give back to those young kids of the next generation. Me wanting to win lent itself to other walks of life. So if I did an exam, I wanted to win. I wanted to be best in the exam. If I'm playing Tiddlywinks, if I'm eating my tea, I want to eat my tea first. Everything that I do, I'm really competitive, and I'll go to some pretty big extremes. Because I'm never biggest, strongest, fastest, or most skillful, but I'm probably one of the most industrious players. And that translated into other walks of life. A few ideas that I had, being a social worker or some sort of social care, because I love people. Architecture, I like art a lot, and I love buildings. So like the thought of being an architect and being cool, designing things, and engineering. When I was playing, I did a degree at Leeds Met in sport and exercise science, and I think it sort of got pigeonholed into that a little bit because I was a sportsman. But in hindsight, I wish I'd have done something around engineering or business, something like that, because probably what I'm more interested in. In fact, before we come on air, I was just doing a school video to encourage kids to read, and I'm saying in this video that actually science was more interesting to me at school than sport, funnily enough. I've played under some beauties. The two best, I'd have to narrow it down to two. It'd be Tony Smith was an Australian who come to Leeds in 2004. And what made him really special was that he turned the game almost into a science. And for 80 minutes, it didn't matter if you were resting. Resting was an activity. So there was a way to rest. And he'd show you how to rest. And it might sound daft, that, but he said, listen, if you're resting, then you need to be in a position to be ready to pounce on an opportunity. And if that opportunity comes, then get on it. Don't rest with hands on your head or facing the wrong way or being distracted. Every single minute of the game, there was something for everybody to do. And that was ingredient number one. The second ingredient with him was it didn't matter whether you played 400 games or you played 4. It didn't matter whether you was 30 years old or 17. If you were doing the right things, you were keeping yourself in good condition, you're contributing to the team selflessly, you would have a good chance of being in the side. And they were values that I really still hold dear to and really worked hard towards. And he came at a time when I was on the fringe player and I wanted to work hard for him, and he sort of took me over that event horizon, so to speak, and I became a consistent player. But the one that we had the most success probably under, and the biggest narrative learning for me and understanding was Brian McDermott. Like Brian, me and Brian are very similar in many ways. He'd cringe if he heard me say that. He's very doctrinal, sergeant major type, and he likes to get stuff done, but he's really emotional as well. There's an emotional side to him, and he gets it. He's not stubborn. He understands we're all different, and we've all got a different role to play. Listen, the biggest ingredient for me within success is the diversity within the teams that I played, and celebrating and using those diversities to cover all the proverbial bases. And Brian McIntyre is that and facilitated that. So for me, he probably just tips Tony Smith. What he don't know about the game isn't worth knowing. He knows everything, a real anorak of the game, real student, and he knows the people, the players, the history. But he looks at the game in a completely different way to what I do. He sees it through a completely different lens. And he sees and talks about things that I would never have otherwise, after 22 years of playing or being around a professional environment, never even thought about. And that's really beneficial, because that means now I'm adding another big string to my bow in understanding that side of the game, while still holding on to some other pieces that I can sometimes volunteer to him and say, well, what do you think about that? And all of a sudden, we've got a massive broad spectrum. But the key to that with my coaching is that he's the head coach. So that his message is the most important, because that's his job. And it's my job to translate that message to my parts of my bits of coaching, what I'm allowed to do as well. That's been a big challenge, because me and him are different people. We're speaking a different language and we see the game in a different way. But you're right, Tony Smith, Brian McDermott, Brian McLennan, his honesty as a coach, have all got bits that I've assimilated and forged into part of my character that I'll ultimately give back to players over the years. The amount of people that I've seen who've got talent, but I can't get them to be consistent, competent, or industrious is mind-blowing. Like some of the lads that I've coached, and I've seen the talent and what they can do when they want to do it, but making them see what value getting out of bed and getting the training on time and making them sacrifices, hanging around with right people, eating the right food, drinking the right drinks, and having the right philosophical attitude to buy into the team rather than the self, it's been horrendous. So yes, I think talent is big, right? I think nurture, as in hard work, is bigger, but the two together is the biggest. So if you've got somebody with a load of talent who's willing to make the sacrifices, willing to work hard, and be industrious about everything they do, self-critical, be in that arena. Theodore Roosevelt has got a poem called "The Man in the Arena," and it talks about jumping in there and having the courage to fail, make mistakes, get knocked on your backside, but then get up, get dusted off, and go again. Having that courage and fortitude to do that, I think that's the ultimate. Danny Maguire, without a doubt, was the most talented. I've never, obviously we spend a lot of time together outside the game, and sometimes we'd find ourselves playing pool or playing darts, and Danny was the only person I wanted to play, because he was the only one worth beating. If you beat anybody else, it's like, whatever. But if you beat Magsy, you've done well. And look, and Danny Maguire was always worth 12 points in the grand final because he'd find a way to score. And I don't know if you're Leeds fans or you've seen 2015. If not, watch as good as it gets. Get the trophy. But, in that game at Huddersfield, when it's all gone and we think the treble's gone, Danny Maguire comes over with a chip over the top for Ryan Hall. And it's like the biggest moment in 100 years at Leeds. Like, it's unbelievable. And that's Danny Maguire for you. Hardworking, I'd probably say myself, and I don't say that with any arrogance. I think, and I say that because if you ask anybody else, they'd say the same. I've seen a lot of videos because that's the only thing I had. The only thing I had is just hard work and that ability to make sacrifices. And interestingly, one of my goals in the lockdown is to lose 4 to 5 kgs. Which I'd have done really easily as a player. But now that I've retired, I find it difficult because the same cause isn't there, the same need, the same accountability. They're all little ingredients that produce the whole. But yeah, I'd be insulted if anybody thought they worked harder than I did. First two that pops into mind, well, the first one would have to be OFC away at the KC Stadium. And it's a bowl, it's a big bowl. So acoustically, I imagine it helps that stand. I don't remember the Boulevard much where they used to play, but the whole rugby league in Hull is massive. It's like what football would be like in Liverpool, right? It's just everywhere. And they sing that All Faithful. Oh, faithful. And when they start, it's like, it's just erupts acoustically and it goes right through you. And it's quite intimidating as well. And they're just mad. And they absolutely hammer you to bits. Buchanan, what are you doing here? Right, that really crazy nan and bam accent. And, being a neutral, it's great to see. It's brilliant as a rugby league fan. But yeah, I think for me it'd be probably KC Stadium. I think it was the last time we played. Might have been last game we played against St Helens. I think it might have been before it's quite an emotional time. And again, going back to that analogy of my class disappearing, that was probably the last time that the likes of Rob Burrow that played at the ground there, the North Stand. The North Stand where we used to get changed was iconic to us. It was our home. And this new stadium that we've got now is a million times better, but it doesn't feel like my home. It's not sanitary either, actually, but it doesn't feel what I grew up with. And in the last game, we played at St Helens and we beat them, and it was a bit like that as well as to whether we were going to win. But it was last one in front of Old South Stand before they pulled it down, and there was a lot of emotion. You know what? There's on rugby, we went to the World Cup in 2017, and we went back to Redford, which is South Sydney Rabbit Hole's training ground, and Greg Inglis were playing for them at the time, mate. And I had a chat with him, mate. I've been fortunate to play against him a few times when he was at Melbourne, and when I was fortunate to play against him for England as well in Australia. And mate, I reckon he's in top 3 players I've ever seen or played against. If I was to come back as myself, but in the body of somebody else, it'd be English. Like that. Now he personifies what I wanted to be as an athlete: big, strong, quick, elusive, and I just love. He's really weird. He sticks his chest out, and he looks formidable. Right? It's inspiring, and the fact that they've signed him is phenomenal. Now, listen, any team in Super League would have Greg Inglis, right? Especially if we get him. Put right money in. Listen, you look at some of the players that they've got now, Warrington, they've got some real megastars there. And it'll certainly sell shirts. And it's brilliant to have players like him in the league because we want, and Sonny Bill, we want those players in Super League for the spectacle. Now, whether he's going to add to the environment at Warrington at the minute, I don't know. I mean, Warrington didn't start the season too well. They might have overcome that in the lockdowns. They might have completely changed that around. It's going to be like starting a new season when we come back. But I think he's going to have to start strong pretty quick. And it'd help if Warrington performs well in his early games to get him off the mark. And if he settles in, mate, it'll be phenomenal, unbelievable. And it's just good to see that those types of players are coming to Super League. It's a few things. Number one, trust. Trust in your teammates that they're going to be selfless, sacrificial, and do everything they can to help you. Trust in yourself that everything that you've done, right, and by done, I don't just mean it last 6 months. I mean every single day since the day you were born, you've made incremental steps to become the person that you are today. You've had some success, you've had some failure, right? But ultimately, if you've prepared well enough and you've tried hard enough, you will have forged a character inside that you can trust enough to go out and do the job that you've been picked to do. So I was picked in that team to go and play in the Old Trafford Grand Final. So there must be something in there that the coach seen that trusts me to go out and do my job. So I've got to trust in myself and my preparation. And the last thing I'd say is not having a fear of failure. No, that's wrong. Not having a fear of failure. Fearing failure is all right, but don't fear failure is in that's it, that's the end, right? We don't want to fail, and don't be happy about failing, not for a second. I'm a big crier, man. I remember one of my favourite moments as a kid seeing Paul Gascoigne cry in 1990 World Cup semi-final. Right? But what inspired me is he couldn't play in the final because he got a yellow card, but he never gave in, and he gave everything to get his teammates in there. And he was emotional about it. I was really emotional. But when you go out, and if you fail, right, and you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, do you know what? I've tried my best every day since I was born. I've prepared as well as I can. I've learned from my mistakes. We've had this new bit of adversity. I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to make some more sacrifices. I'm going to take what I've learned today, and I'm going to use it tomorrow. And keep persevering like that. You end up being a refined person. I just say, have a go. Have a go. Trust in yourself. Trust in the people that have helped you prepare, and just go and have a go. If you succeed, thumbs up. If you don't, go learn from it and be better tomorrow.